All right. It looks like we're streaming live. I love this. This is so great. So, everybody who's watching, I just want to introduce you to this vodcast. This is called Coach's Corner. I'm Liberty Santiago. I'm a PGI certified business consultant, mindset trainer, and manifestation coach. And I designed this vodcast to interview other coaches, standout leaders in their field, so we can learn, have more opportunities to learn, and be expansive with thought leaders. So I'm super pumped to introduce Nicole Wiltshire. I've been following her for a little while, and she just is fabulous, has a ton of amazing, valuable things to say, and I'm thrilled that you said yes to this podcast. So go ahead and introduce yourself, Nicole.
Oh, thanks for having me on, Liberty. Yeah, Nicole Wiltshire. I help coaches really embrace their thought leader persona, get their thoughts out into the world, help people make an impact, and create lots of income as well. Oh no, I can't hear you.
Oh, I was just going to say, you're one of the more seasoned coaches that I've interviewed. How long have you been doing online coaching for?
In some form or another since probably 2011. So I started when I got laid off from my industry, which was interior design. And at the time, I had been working on a personal project outside of my job because I hated my job so much. I was revamping my own style, and I got laid off. And I thought, you know what? I'd been kind of like on the edges of I want to get out of my job, but there was no way. I just like looking back, there was no way it was going to happen. Like, I'm so grateful that I was laid off at the time.
Yeah.
And so I would say within like a month, my husband maybe my boyfriend at the time, but my husband made me take a month off from like doing anything. And he just said, just sit on the sofa, watch TV, and like think about what you want to do with your life. And so I realized, this amazing personal transformation that I've had with figuring out my own style is something that I want to teach other women. And so I started out doing that. I had a business called the Wardrobe Code for 5 years. And after about 5 years, I was just kind of like, I really wanted to reclaim fashion for myself. Like, I didn't want to be an authority on fashion or style anymore. And I was never really an authority on fashion or style. It was more the idea of teaching yourself how to be your own stylist, like setting your own trends, like making your outside match your inside. And so I kind of just wanted to reclaim like my own exploration of fashion for myself as opposed to being, a thought leader on it or an authority. So I moved into just kind of like general life coaching. I had some clients who had been with me for a while through my wardrobe coaching days, and they were ready to make that shift. And so that's how I kind of transitioned away from that. And then in 2017, I think I took Julie Stoyan's digital marketer program, and so I brushed up on my digital marketing skills. And yeah, that was in 2017 at the end of it. So I've been helping people with marketing since then.
That's so cool. And it sounds like you've pivoted a few times, but maybe also recently too. And I would love to hear about, were you just inspired, burnt out? Like, how did that happen? Because I know people who are watching, are just starting out on their journey. And I think it's important to normalize like the path and like,
Yeah.
the goal is to help people, but the plan along the way may change. And so if you could just kind of walk us through what your most recent pivot has been and what inspired you.
Yeah, so I think more of it was just it's a couple different things. First of all, I didn't feel like enough people were being served in this one area that I'll mention in just a minute. And I think it was also just my own experience of realizing where my own genius was. Like, I'm multi-talented. I can do a lot of things, but it doesn't mean that I need to do them. It means that I need to like stay where I feel like I'm in my zone of genius. And so this area is where basically you're figuring out, what's your niche going to be? Who's the client, the most ideal client that you're going to serve? And how are you going to serve them? And instead of using a formulaic approach to, okay, well, let's look at what all the other coaches are selling in this area to this specific type of person and model a program based on that, but maybe put your own spin on it. Instead of doing that, we don't necessarily need to wipe the slate clean of your entire business. But I think that a lot of coaches are having fatigue about selling what they're selling. And rather than remake your offer or play with pricing, let's be brave enough to take a couple of steps back and ask ourselves, am I even selling the right thing? Am I serving the right person? Am I in the right niche? I mean, I think that so many of us are multi-talented like that. And so like, let's just take a look at what you're best, not only what you're best at doing, but also what do you really enjoy doing? Like, what is the thing that like you want to get up and do every single day? I think that we all owe it to ourselves to be really honest about what we're here to do. And I think it's scary to get away from something that maybe like you think is a moneymaker, or like you see other people doing it and having great financial success. And that's awesome. You know, that's fantastic. But I just, like I said, I think that we all owe it to ourselves to, I mean, if we're going to have our own business, I think we all owe it to ourselves to be doing something that we genuinely really love doing every single day. And sure, you know, in running a business and being an entrepreneur, occasionally there are going to be things that we have to do that like aren't our favorite things to do. But I think that, you know, by and large, the activities that you're doing day in and day out should be things that you really feel like you're in your zone of genius in doing. And if you're waking up every day and you're having any bit of hesitation about selling your offer, I don't need to shame you for it. I don't need to tell you, oh, well, you don't really believe in your offer. I want to say, no, let's go back and see if like this is even the right thing. Because if you have hesitation about it, if you're not selling it, if it's inconsistent or non-existent in terms of your sales, then let's fix that.
Yeah, I love that. It gives me chills because a lot of times, you know, as an entrepreneur, you can be like, oh, well, I don't see the proof. You know, I don't see the consistency. Am I even doing the right thing? And I always bring myself back to that place where you said, you know, that you just truly love. What is the offer that you truly love? And where is it that you find yourself really happy? And for me, I know that I'm really happy when I'm facilitating my program. So it's like, yeah, I might not like, you know, reaching out and doing all this marketing stuff or getting on calls. That sometimes can be one of my least favorite things. But I love what I'm learning from other coaches is like, it doesn't have to be hard. It doesn't have to be overwhelming. You can learn how to create out of what you don't necessarily like. And so when I hear coaches say that stuff, it's refreshing because it makes me feel like, okay, I'm normal. I got this, you know? So that's why I told you, I said, just give us everything you got, because it's important to normalize, you know, what we're experiencing as online entrepreneurs and how we show up and help other people.
I really love that you have this, you're promoting this concept of normalizing the pivot, because I think that especially among business and marketing coaches, I think there's so much pressure, self-inflicted, admittedly, to present a facade that everything is great. Oh my God, there's so much momentum. Everything is great. And I mean, that's just not realistic. I mean, I want everyone to have a wonderful experience. I want everyone to make the money. But I think that like denying that or not talking about any doubt that we ever have just contributes to a lot of people really thinking that there's something wrong with them or that they're not doing things right. And it can be so painful to see other people doing things in a way that it just looks like they're killing it, like they can't make a mistake. And then look at your own experience and you're like, wow, I must be really defective or lazy or incompetent or, you know, all these, we have such bad habits around, you know, negative self-talk. And if we're not careful, it can just be exacerbated in this space.
Yeah, absolutely. So can you give the audience and myself a tip for how do you personally deal with those feelings, you know, the feelings that things have to be perfect or right, or, you know, the pivot, like where are you finding your strength and raising your vibration? Because we know it's a thing. So what is it that you're doing that helps you to break through?
Yeah. Well, I think recently, you know, what I'm doing with really honing in on the part of the transformational journey of my client where I'm best at is accepting that, you know, I'm going to let other people in the space take over what they do best. And I'm going to focus on, I'm going to reaffirm to myself, I'm going to validate within myself internally what I'm really good at. And then I'm just going to focus on that. And it doesn't mean that I suck at the other things.
Yeah.
It just means that like, this is the part of the transformational journey with my client that I'm absolutely in my zone of genius in. And it means that I can expand in that space as opposed to having to cover all of the things. So, I mean, I don't need to have, like I said, you have that inner validation piece. And I don't need to go and compete directly with other business coaches by having the year-long program that's 10,000. I mean, that's great. That's fantastic, especially if someone loves facilitating that, like you said. But I don't necessarily need to keep up with that. Like, I don't need to go and compete directly with that. I just want to compete, even though that's what a lot of people in the market are buying. That's fine. It just means that if I create an offer that is different, then the idea is that it's going to really stand out. If I market it properly, it's going to stand out more to the people who really need it. But I think really, to answer your question, it's just that internal validation of recognizing my own talents and strengths and saying some people are better at other things. You are really good at this, and just recognizing that in myself.
Yeah, I love that. It's like a living affirmation.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, just allowing yourself to be good at something different. I think that we all want to compete, and we all think, though, well, I've got to get good at this thing that my peers are doing. And it's like, well, I don't know, maybe, but maybe it's better if you just stay with what you're really good at and get better at that, as opposed to trying to meet your peers where they're at.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. So you are talking to me about, it sounds like collaboration, which is something that I have really done this year. I started my business in February, and I did the solo thing for about 6 months. And I thought, oh my goodness, I don't know. How do people do this? Like, I told my dogs are so funny. So I ended up collaborating with some really powerful women, and that has been a space that I found a lot of momentum and being able to like really raise my vibration and level up. So that includes coaching and service professionals. But then also most recently, I collaborated with another coach to offer our mastermind. So is that kind of what you're talking about doing, is bringing on other coaches into your business, so that way people can have multiple coaches to help them through their journey? Or what is that more like?
Sure. So for me and my business and this specific offer that I have, no, we're not bringing in additional coaches. I love the idea of collaboration. And in this specific instance, it's more of kind of an informal collaboration with other women in my space. We had talked about, actually, I think before we started the live stream, this idea of, again, me being in this zone of genius. And then I have a group for coaches where we talk about marketing and different marketing tactics. And so I love the idea of bringing in, very similar to this show that we're doing right now, that I've already scheduled these out. Liberty's scheduled for the 4th of January, of bringing in coaches to provide a varied perspective on marketing. Because seriously, one marketing and sales model for a coach that works really well for her is not necessarily what's going to work really well for someone else. And so I love the idea of specializing. I love the idea of taking a model, something that you experienced really good success with and had success with your clients, and saying, this is the way, this is the process that we follow, repeat it, do it over and over again, perfect it. But the thing is that it's not going to fit every single business. And I'd like to bring in some varying perspectives. I mean, with my own clients, I have a lot of experience, like we talked about. And so I have a lot in my toolbox to be able to help them with. But I also like bringing in the perspectives of other people in the space. And I love the idea of collaboration, even if it's something a little bit more informal, by just simply, featuring them in your group. I think it's good to have relationships.
Yeah, that's really good. It's just kind of like maybe a referral marketing sense, where people are like, okay, hey, I see this person showing up. I know now what they do, and now I know where to go for when I'm ready for that step, which I think is really, really good. And then it also brings me down to, that theory, like you could be really good at a lot of things, but not really, really good at one thing. So when you are getting your niche down, like you say you are, then you are now the expert and the master at that, which is really good, because you'd rather have that high level, that integrity of service in that one space versus, I made a mediocre service delivered to your clients.
Sure. And that's not to say that people who do have a wider offering. I definitely don't want to throw shade on anybody who has a wider offering, not at all. I want to honor everyone where they're at.
Yeah, no, I totally understand what you're saying. I think it's great. There's, like I was mentioning, there's a coach for everything, and there's a style for everyone. And the coaches that offer a lot, I think it's really good. But for what I have found, I see it a little bit harder to communicate what it is that you actually give, to your client, because there's so much. So how do you exactly communicate? I'm an all services style coach. Get you from concept to successful launch. Talk to me about how you refine your content and your outreach to your market. How do you get that very clear so you can speak to that avatar client?
Well, I think one of the most important things is knowing your ideal client's top desire and totally stepping out of your niche to figure that out. So let me explain it this way. I put a post into a group, and I think on my profile a couple of weeks ago, asking people what their client's top desire is, what their ideal client's top desire. And so many people answered from the perspective of the service they provide. Like, oh, my client wants to save on their taxes, or, oh, my client wants to have a great relationship. And what I think is important for all of us to know, all of us to market, all of us who are coaches, is that your client's top desire has nothing to do with the niche that you're in, or the thing, the result that's at the end of your program. And so really what our top desires fall into a small number of categories. It's validation, fulfillment, all those things. And so I think that it's really important when you're communicating what your offer is about, who it's for, what the value of it is that you are 100% in touch with what their top desires are. And my ideal client's top desire is to have significance. For whatever reason, it's significance. So I think understanding that, because if you focus all of your marketing around the result that you help your clients get, I just don't think it's going to be as effective. And not to mention, you may attract clients who have a different top desire. Their top desire might, like for me, my clients, like I said, is significance. But if I'm talking about the result, I may end up attracting people who maybe their top desire is financial success. And my clients definitely want the financial success, but they want that significance over the financial success. And so if I only talk about the result, then I could be attracting an array of people who might be better suited working with someone else. And I think it's much better for me to speak directly to the core desires that my ideal clients have, so that we all know that we're in the right place. And even if they never buy anything from me, just by simply following me, they're going to get that validation. And I'm going to grow my audience. I'm going to grow my brand that way, because I'm speaking to a much bigger desire as opposed to just what I provide.
Yeah, I love that. And actually, I haven't heard that style of a perspective or communicated in that way when you are going for your client attraction content. So that's really refreshing. I always love learning. That's what this podcast is about. So I love that. So is there a certain number of categories? You said there's a very small amount of categories, desires speaking to those clients.
That is a great question. And that is definitely something that as we talk about it, I'm like, what are those other things? So that's something that I think that I'm going to dive a lot more into independently. But yeah, I think it's validation, it's significance, it's feeling loved and cared about. It's all that. I think it's really kind of like, if you look at the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, maybe there's a couple of extra, in terms of like the higher level hierarchies, but and I'm not a psychologist, so I'm not like 100% familiar with that. But yeah, I think that, like I said, it comes down to higher concepts, higher and broader concepts. And I think that it would do all of us really well to tap into that, so that we're not speaking farther down the hierarchy of needs. And I just think that you're going to connect better with your audience when you're truly in tune with the type of person that they are and what they truly value.
Yeah, that's really good because when I first started marketing to people, I thought that a lot of people wanted the financial success. So I spoke in those words, but the more that I got one-on-one with people, I found that that's not the case. A
Yeah.
lot of people are not going after the dollars or I want to be a millionaire. Like they truly want that, but that's not the first thing. Like the first thing that they want is like either the security or you said validation or those things. But I like how you're bringing it like to a concept of checking the box from a very broad perspective up at the top, because if you get too specific, then people are like, I don't want to be rich. What do you
Right.
mean?
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I
So
think also something that we all should be really cognizant and aware of as we build our brands online is the success of a coaching program is short-lived. Like, I think that we all look at something like Marie Forleo's B School and we think, and even that's kind of waning a little bit, but like that's Marie Forleo's B School is like best case scenario, like phenomenal case scenario, right? Like all like cosmically aligned scenario, like the best you could ever get. But the truth is that the lifetime or the lifetime value or the lifespan is what I'm thinking of. The lifespan of a course or a program is limited. And so as coaches, as thought leaders, I think, and not all coaches are thought leaders. So I'm speaking to the ones who are thought leaders. So I think it's important that you build a bigger brand beyond that, because it's likely that if you were to hit a home run with some sort of program, you could have maybe 2, 3, 4 years tops that it does really well for you. And then the market's going to change, trends are going to change, and you're going to have to adapt. And so if you build a larger brand that doesn't just speak to one very specific type of person, your offer might do that, your content might sell that thing. But if you have a bigger piece of your content where an overall theme of your content and your platform where you're speaking to a broader group of people, then you're baking in that opportunity in your business to have a much bigger business than simply just selling one solution to one type of person.
yeah, that is so good. I love that. That's longevity, and especially from a seasoned business coach, that is really valuable nuggets to share with us. So thank you so much for that. And something that I absolutely love about Coach's Corner is that it's just a small segment of your time. So we are right at 30 minutes, and I think you've over delivered today, Nicole. So thank you so much for showing up and doing this. And I know that you are wildly successful, and I love watching you. I'm very inspired by you as well. So thank you so much for saying yes to me and being on this podcast and helping other people to learn and grow. And I have tagged your group up above so people can get a hold of you. Joining in your group is the best way to get in touch with you. Is that right?
Yeah, definitely.
Awesome. So good. Well, thank you again so much. And have a great day, everyone. Okay, bye.